Quick one before we start. If you're a birth worker and you don't know what your next steps in your business are, whether you're just getting started or you've been at this a while, I've made a free quiz for you. It shows you what stage your birth biz is actually at and what to focus on next, without any generic advice. It'll only take you a minute to complete, and the link is in the show notes. Right, let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to my podcast. I'm Niamh Cassidy and today I am joined by Shana and Vanessa, and they are best friends, business partners and financial coaches who love talking about budgets. They help women set up an automatic budget system that is built to fit your real life and big dreams. So as they say, you can be bougie on a budget. And we're going to talk about how we can stop living from month to month, even when as birth workers our incomes can change and fluctuate depending on the kind of work that we are doing. So thank you very much for joining me. Could you tell people a little bit about how you got into this work? You know, what brought you to budgeting?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we actually came together teaching. I'm sure maybe you guys have heard Dave Ramsey over there. He teaches a class called Financial Peace University, where it's all about learning how to get your finances in order. He has a 7-step process. But one of the concepts that was really missing while we were teaching the course was budgeting. It was expected that you knew. It was understood that people knew how to make a budget, but sadly, people were not educated. They were not taught in school. Nobody knew how to budget, and so we really dove into that, and we decided that this is where people need help. And not only do they need help in that area, they also don't want to do a budget kind of the way that everyone's been teaching them, as far as being restrictive, being the budget is taboo. It's no, you can't do this. You're living on rice and beans. And so we really wanted to turn and change the vocabulary around budgeting so that way it can be fun, it can be exciting, and you can be bougie on a budget.
And what are your own backgrounds? Like, what brought you to kind of choose this as your work?
Well, as you mentioned, we are best friends. We've been friends since our eldest, which are boys, were 4 and now they're 17. And we both, were moms trying to figure this out, eventually entrepreneurs, and trying to, get our own finances in order, which can be a very big point of stress, as all of your listeners know. So we just really tried to figure that all out. And we both kind of came to some of the very same conclusions. And then, like Vanessa said, we were teaching that class together and we noticed, okay, people don't know. They just genuinely don't know. And also, like she said, it's kind of an ugly, there's like an ugly and manly, honestly, vibe around this whole thing. Let's see what we can do. What can we contribute to the conversation? How can we shape it, change it, make it more fun, more simple, more doable, take the shame out of it, and help people feel hopeful. And like you said, they could be bougie on a budget.
Yeah, we're both financially wired, right? So we really wanted to take our talents and use them to serve others and help them live a completely different life with their finances and just show them a different way.
Because you're right, it's not really the most fun thing for people to talk about. It's something that a lot of us kind of want to ignore and just kind of hope for the best. And then quite often that can get us into places that we don't want to be.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we definitely want to change that feeling because listen, we make budgets and we call it the B word. So we're very happy to be here to talk about the B word. We make so many budgets and we actually do think it's fun, and it's not because we're math nerds, but the way that we make budgets is very simple. It's not complicated. It doesn't take like your whole brain cast, for hours and hours, but we also get to budget. We want to budget all the fun stuff. That's what we mean by bougie on a budget. We want to make it so you can do all the cool things that you have envisioned in your life. And, recently we had a client that we helped her budget to have a midwife, and have the whole program to have the kind of birth experience that she wanted to have. And that's the kind of stuff, like if you can budget for it, you don't have to put it on credit. You can feel really good about it. Right. And so, so we try to make it fun. We try to take all of the stigma out of it. It's just telling your money where to go. And hopefully it's going to align with all the fun goals that you have in life.
Yeah. And we actually have a lot of entrepreneurs as well that help that really need and want to learn how to get their finances in order. And, one of the things that we like to say is we don't want you to be an ostrich with your head in the sand. Like, think about people who they're like putting their fingers in the ear. They're like, la, 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 I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to talk about it. But the reality is it's money. Money makes the world go round. We have to understand our finances. We have to know it. So we want you to pull your head out of the sand. And we've created a system, like Shana said, that's very simple, that allows you the freedom to spend confidently because everything is laid out so easy and it's organized.
And I think that's a really good way to talk about it because it you know, it does feel like one of those things that people don't want to do or don't want to think about. And maybe, Shana, you said something about, you know, it's quite manly and maybe there's some historical patriarchy thing about that. But to be able to budget so that you can spend money on yourself, I think is a really nice way to look at it, because what often I hear from clients is that, you know, they're working on their business, they're taking in a little money, but they won't use any of that money for themselves because they feel guilty, or they feel that it has to go back into family finances, or that it's not fair if they take it from themselves. But if you can sort it out in some sort of way that that's what it's for, that's its pocket, then I think that would make it a lot easier.
Oh, that's its pocket. I love that.
It's a little pocket.
Yes.
Yes, you. So you know, the thing is with your folks is, you know, they have somewhat of a business budget that they need to have. But when we're talking about your personal budget, you know, for us, spending money is non-negotiable. You and you know, if you have a partner, if you have a spouse, they're going to have spending money too, non-negotiable. And it's going to be in there, and there's no feeling guilty for that. You work hard for your money. Let's do it on purpose. And what happens, Neve, is if you don't do that, that's when people get in trouble. That's when they turn to credit. That's when they spend the money that was supposed to be spent on the mortgage, right? So let's plan for that on purpose. It's going to be according to you and your goals. Like, you can have as much or as little as you want, but it's non-negotiable. It is a line item in the category, or a line item in the budget, that you have personal spending money to speak to, you know, your ladies and what they're doing for other women. Is also, there's a line item for kids, because one of the things that we have discovered is kids steal all your money. Okay. Raise your hand if you agree that all of your money seems to disappear in the name of your children, which is fine. But we also want to put them in as a line item separate, because a lot of times you never feel like you have any money. You feel guilty because the kid needs this or the kid wants that, is really usually what's actually happening. And so when we want you to put those two separate in the budget so that you can both have, you can have money and you can have money allotted toward them, so you can feel really good about it. And there's no guilt or shame there.
Well, because the reality is if you don't have money allotted to yourself, you're going to spend it anyways. It's going to come from somewhere. You're going to find it somewhere in your budget or your non-budget, your account, and spend the money. But if you know that you consistently have a certain amount of money coming every other week or every month or every week, however you want to pay yourself that money, you're going to be less likely to just blow it, right? And just frivolously spend on whatever. And then the same point for the kids. Imagine knowing, hey, I've set aside $100 a month for my kids, whatever they need. That money is there. And I also have my own money. We also have money for bills. We also have money for gas and groceries. And just that peace of mind, knowing that everything is taken care of, like, that's what we want for you. We want you to be able to have your amazing business and grow that and know that finances aren't a burden for you.
And you kind of, I think if you can separate it like that and put it under categories, as you said, it can help people feel that little bit less guilty about it. It's like, well, I've allocated this for this and this for this child and for that child, and this is what's allocated for me. So rather than always just, as you said, pulling from everywhere and assuming that money has to go, then maybe sometimes we can say no to those wants, because that money is now spent and now we don't have to take it out of the other category.
We had do you guys have Chick-fil-A over there?
No.
No.
We
okay.
know what it is, though.
I wasn't sure. Okay, so it's like it's a fast food chicken restaurant. But so we had a client one time who actually it's, you know, all the kids love this place. It has a playground or whatever. Anyways. And so she actually had an envelope that said Chick-fil-A on it for her kids. And she said, okay, if you guys want to go, this is what's in here. So if we're going to get this money every 14 days or whatever, you know, you guys get to decide how often we go. And it empowers the kids to make those decisions, so you don't have to make them, right? So they can be on the conversation and be allowed to make those decisions as to when they want to spend it and how they want to spend it based on the amount of money that they have available to them.
Yeah. And I want to go back, if we can, to what you guys sort of started alluding to as far as the women that are making money in their business, but they feel guilty over spending any of it. So that is when we teach entrepreneurs, which, you know, 90% of our clients are also entrepreneurs. Yep. Because, by the way, if you don't know how to budget, let's go ahead and add a business budget to that. Like, let's just double down on this fun thing that we don't know how to do. But when we do that, we want you to have, like, figure out what your business costs. So, you know, your ladies, do they have to have insurance? Do they have to have supplies? I don't know, whatever. What does it cost over there? And then I'll actually know, when I make money, how much I need to keep back for the business. And then I also want to have my personal budget. So if your ladies have, I know you said a lot of them have another job, this is kind of like an additional job, or maybe there's another, their husband works or whatever, that budget, we're going to make our budget based on that. and see what it all looks like. Again, this is not a restrictive budget. This is, spending money here, going out there, whatever it is. And then we will know how, we'll know that our budget can exist without needing the birth worker money. And then when we add that in, it can be a bonus. It can be a bonus for spending. It can be a bonus for savings. It can be a bonus to pay off debt, whatever you choose to do with it. But your budget isn't relying on it. But you need that personal budget to tell you that we're good, we can live on our regular, and this birth worker money actually is extra that we can put towards something fun or something that we need.
We also have a lot of clients when they're starting their business, they need their personal budget to kind of help fund their business at the beginning. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but put it in the budget, right? So say, whatever you want to name your awesome company, and put that in your personal budget, and then say, okay, I only want to fund this with my personal budget for 6 months or a year, however long you think it's going to take you to get your business up and running. And then at that point, then you can create your own full business budget. So that way it's all the money is going in there and you're paying your expenses, and then you are cutting yourself a paycheck. So it works in reverse at that point.
That's it. And I think definitely, I know for me, I was the head in the stand kind of person. I was like, I'll figure this out as I go along. One thing I did do early, thankfully, because otherwise I don't know what kind of a mess I would have ended up in, is I did get separate bank accounts for my business and for my personal expenses. So I could at least see what was going in and out. And I did budget for my personal expenses to actually pay into my business so I could pay myself. So I gave my business a loan so I could pay me just to feel like I was getting paid. It was a very small amount that I was paying myself, but I was paying myself something. But definitely then as I did start making a little bit of money, I wasn't really paying attention. I was someone who really likes reinvesting into my business and, getting the program and paying for the software and, doing all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't really keeping an eye on what I was paying out there until eventually you're looking and going, why am I paying all these subscriptions for the same
Yes.
thing?
Well, so you are right. You're hitting the nail on the head with the separate accounts, but we're going to take it a step further. So let's just look at business here. But for your listeners, have you ever heard of like cash envelopes where you have different envelopes and you put different cash in it? So we took that idea and modernized it into digital envelopes. And these are separate accounts. So even you already have separate business and personal accounts. So in your business, you want to have separate accounts there too. What would have helped past you, Neve, is having a income checking account, having a bills checking account, and having a spending checking account for your business, right? And then obviously we can talk about savings, but what would happen is your income comes in here, and then you would pay your expenses, how much you need a month for expenses. And that's important because that's when you would see it, but you don't have to track. What happens is you have a black hole of one account where all the money is coming in, which if you have different clients and different whatever, it's like kind of a lot going on. You have this subscription going out. You went out to eat, or you took a client to coffee, to meet or whatever. That's all in the same account. And you can't actually see what you're spending very clearly. Yeah. That's what separating the accounts does, is it makes it so clear, so obvious what's actually happening. So it's a less of a decision or like an analyzing that you have to do to see what's really going on in your business.
Yeah. So we're really like anti-tracking. We don't want you to have to, or make you feel like you have to track all of your expenses and transactions throughout the month. The idea here, what Shana is saying, is if you have all your income and then you only transfer into your bills account, your business bills account, what you need for bills, and you transfer into your business spending, what you're going to allot to spend money on, like taking a client out for coffee, into your spending account, that's really the only tracking you have to do, is transferring the money into those separate accounts. And then you get to use the money that's in those accounts. And then your income account, right, is constantly building and flowing. Money's coming in, money's going out as you're transferring it to those separate accounts. And it just allows you to be the type of person and be okay being the type of person that has money. I think that's a lot of it too, is people don't, especially with businesses, everything is so down to the wire sometimes, and you're like scraping by to make your business work. But be the type of business that has money and has an abundance of money that you can transfer into other places. Like I was just going to say, our first month of our business, girl, we did, we do profit first. Mike Michalowicz is his system on how to do finances for your business. And our first month, we were $47 profitable.
Watch out.
That's what we had.
Don't spend it all in one place.
But we were profitable day one. Like we were very proud to be able to transfer the money in the separate accounts and know that it was organized and there for a purpose.
I don't want to get into, I think that's a whole nother podcast. Happy to do it. No, not that, but about the patriarchy. I think that's interesting. I don't know about the patriarchy, but definitely the man sphere of talking about this. But one thing that I do know is we don't want to deal with it the way that they dealt with it. But what we do want to do is take ownership. Okay. We want to take ownership in a feminine way, in a fun way, in a like our budget is designed to be pretty on purpose. Like we want it to be aesthetically pleasing. Okay. Sorry, sue us, whatever. All of that to say, you still want to take ownership of it, especially as a business owner. Like take yourself seriously. You are serious. You're doing serious work. You're making money. Like, let's take it seriously. So don't like check out when we're saying several accounts. The cool thing about having an income is it's so easy to see how much you're making. We have so many entrepreneurs that come in that have no idea what they're making because they would have to go look up Stripe invoices and PayPal or what Venmo. And like, they have no idea. They're just like, I'm running full force fulfilling in my business. I don't have time. But an income account really lets you easily see how much you're making. And then obviously, like I said, if it's separate with the expenses, that's how those things don't get out of hand. And then we would do savings buckets. Every one of our business owners has a professional development, growth, whatever you want to call it, savings bucket, because we know you're going to want to buy that coaching program or that new course or go to that conference or whatever. And you should as a business owner, but we're just going to save for that on purpose. But you need to have your business budget, which is very simple. Look, there can be 10 line items on it. It doesn't have to be a lot, but we want you to have it so you can see what's possible.
Well, I think, if people are struggling to kind of understand the concept, you mentioned earlier about the envelopes, and that would have been something that a lot of people I know, at least in Ireland and the UK, what their mothers would have done to manage the household budgets. So like typically when I was growing up, it was usually the dad was making the money, but the woman managed it, so mom was given the money and she'd have the envelopes for the electricity and the envelopes for the coma, for the TV guy and, all of that kind of thing. So it's a really simple concept, as you said, but you've modernized it.
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think people, when they hear you can have multiple checking accounts and like, yes, you just have to find the bank that'll allow you to do that. But yes, the idea is we're taking that exact same concept of mom and dad, grandma, whoever, aunt, uncle, who had these envelopes for different things in the old days. And now we're just putting it online so you can visually see all the money in the different accounts. And the best part is that you can rename your accounts to say gas and groceries, and you can say bills, and you can say spending. So it's literally mimicking that exact same cash envelope system.
So there's actually a banking system here that a lot of people use called Revolut, and that has vaults. So in the one account, you can create different vaults for different. So you could do it that way, because if people here were to have lots of different accounts, they'd be paying fees on every single account and transaction. But Revolut is probably one way they could do it that way.
Yeah, you just want to shop around for a bank. There are banks out there that don't charge fees. And so part of our system, and we don't need to get into all of it, but the first thing is to simplify. We want a very simple budget, which we do have. Like anybody, like my 10-year-old, gosh, I don't have a 5-year-old. I'm sorry, my 11-year-old, my 5th grader could go fill out this budget. It's so easy. It makes so much sense. Then we want you to separate with the accounts, like we just said. And then you can automate it. So 90% or more of your budget is the exact same every month. Like you pay the same bills. You generally spend the same money for groceries. You generally spend the same money for fuel or gas. And so we can automate all of that. Your bank can do it for you. So you have more time to go be a mom, to go be a birth worker, to go like literally do anything else. We don't care what it is, anything else besides like consternating over your finances or tracking. That's gross. We don't love that either. So it can all be automated.
Yeah. So imagine like for this to come into play here, my husband gets paid every Wednesday night, Thursday mornings. All of our transfers happen. I didn't do anything. I've already done the work. It took the hour it took to make the budget, set up all the transfers, decide how much money was going everywhere. And my grocery account got refunded. My spending account gets refunded. My medical account gets refunded. Everything gets refunded. And so that's the idea, is I can go about living my life and just spending my money out of using my debit card, right? Because we're so busy doing other things, being a mom and being a business owner. So that's the vision.
That's amazing. And like, is there, if people have you make your budget and then you're not tracking. So what happens if there's an unexpected bill or something is more expensive one month than it would usually be? How do we figure that bit out?
Well, that's the whole 90%. 90% of your budget was the same. So you might have to go in, especially like utilities, those might change. Sometimes insurance seems to only go up, right? Well, literally every bill only seems to go up, even if it's only $1 every month. But you just go update that, in your budget, and our budget does all the math for you. It's telling you how much money you have left over after everything's paid and all that. So you would just say, oh, well, the phone bill was $195, not $179. And you just update that. And that's it. You don't have to track it. You just update it. And then for our budget, automatically populates to the next month that it's apparently the new bill is $195. Great. Love it. But it does it automatically, but there's just a few tweaks that you have to make. So you just want to have a little bit of a buffer. You don't want to have to spend every single dollar of your budget necessarily, especially if you know some of those bills are fluctuating.
And then for the business end, it's quite similar. You were talking about having the income goes into one pot, and for us, for birth workers, quite often that monthly income fluctuates a lot. September, October is when all the babies are born. December, things get quieter again. They're making the babies, so we can have. We don't have to help with that. So we can have. Our income can vary quite a lot from month to month. So what's kind of the advice when you're setting up your budget for that sort of situation?
So this is why business budgets are a little different than a personal budget. And the difference is, like Shana was saying earlier, is we have an income account, whereas you have a separate account where all of your income is coming into. So it's pooling in there. Okay. And so when you have a business like being a birth worker where it's fluctuating month to month or season by season, you're not really sure how much you're going to be making. You have two options. You can allow it to just, if you don't need the money, really, you can allow it to just pool in the income account and let it sit there. And you're only paying out into your bills account and into your spending account the money that you need. Right? So it's just sitting in there. The other part is this, and you can make a savings account, you can say income holding savings account from there, and you're pulling money and say, okay, I know that I need at least 4 or 5 months of income to hold me over during the slow season. So you're going to naturally figure out how much you're going to need to save in there, but maybe divide it by 12 or divide it by, like, if you're busy 6 months out of the year, say, okay, I need to take for 6 months, I need to take money and save it for the next 6 months that are slow. So you're going to take a little bit of money out of those 6 months and put it into that income holding account. So that way it can fund your business during the slow season.
Yeah. And this is why it's so important to have these budgets figured out. So your budget, your monthly budget for your business has the same expenses. Hopefully that's less than you make, right? But it's certainly less than you make on these great big months, right? So you don't have to pay yourself all of that. You can, like Vanessa said, keep some of that, what is it? The squirrel, is it the squirrel or the ant that stores up for winter? Somebody is doing that. There's some creature doing that. That's what you're doing. But the key is, and this is why it's important to have a budget, is a lot of times we spend everything we make. We spend every dime that we make, whether it's on personal stuff or business stuff, we just spend it because it's there. You don't want to have to, you don't do that. You're only going to use what you need because you have a budget, a business budget and a personal budget that is telling you what you need, and you can keep the rest aside for a rainy day.
We have real estate agents that they'll make 30, 50,000 in 1 month. And then, in 4 or 5 months, they're making nothing, but they blow all the money that they make in those big months because they have it. But you have to really be diligent when you're a business owner and be, it's kind of adulting. It's kind of rude. We have to adult, and we have to set aside the money that we know that we're going to need later on when we know the income is not going to be there.
Yeah, and that's definitely conversations I've had with clients before is about, because they're worried about that up and down. It's about, as you said, kind of when the months are up, we hold a little bit back for when the months aren't as good, so that at least we have more of a consistent type amount that we're paying ourselves. But I think what you've said about having the personal budget as well is probably being what the missing piece is, because people we're just kind of getting paid, taking all of that money out into their personal finances, so anything that was left after paying their expenses was going straight into their personal finances. And then the next month, if there was nothing left to take out, then they're feeling like, oh, I didn't get paid this month.
Yeah. Well, your paycheck needs to be a line item in your business budget. You have to make your personal budget and then figure out how much you need to pay yourself. And that needs to be an expense.
Yeah. Well, so I'll give you the example. I have she's a single lady. Okay, just kidding. She is an esthetician. I don't know exactly what that is, but I know she has a salon. That's what I know, it's a spa. And she has a very simple personal budget because she is single. But her business budget, like Vanessa said, in the line items, has a $600 paycheck that goes to her personal on the 1st and a $600 paycheck that goes to her personal on the 15th, regardless of what she makes, which is way more than that, regardless, because that's all her personal budget needs to happen. So she's got a lot that she's trying to accomplish with her business over here. So that happens automatically. And then everything else over there in her business, her personal budget, her her groceries account gets funded, her bills get paid automatically. She doesn't have to think about it at all. And that's kind of what you want to figure out with your business. How much of a paycheck do I need? Do I want to set up? And that's part of my expenses. That's what I'm figuring in. And so then if I have a month where I make $10,000, but I only need it's a lot of money, but I only need 5,000. I don't need to pull that 5,000 over necessarily. I can keep it, like Vanessa said, in the holding account so that I can pay myself every month. I can pay myself, so.
Yeah, I definitely think that it just makes running a business even feel more comfortable, when you have that consistent, this is the minimum amount that I'm going to pay myself every month, and that we have those extra months that can help out with that. Is there anything else that you think that we're missing that would be helpful for people?
I think we've talked about creating a simple budget that we have. It's 5 simple columns: income, debt payments, bills, spending, savings. We talk about separating it, having the separate accounts. And we also talked about making it automatic. So those are the 3 parts that we really think that are different than what you're hearing when you're making a regular budget. And it's really going to help you.
And for yourselves or some of the people that you've worked with, like what have been the kind of big benefits, the big kind of things that people have felt after kind of implementing this type of system?
I think that they just feel, I think relief is definitely one thing, whether we want to admit it, whether we're not paying attention or not. This is something that causes a lot of heaviness for people, a lot of stress, even if they're not paying attention. I think it's even worse then. So they get a lot of relief. They get a lot of time back. They know, I think for me personally, and then for a lot of our clients, knowing that I have money for all the different categories that I want to have money for. Like I know, I'm not guessing, I'm not having to do math at the store to see if I can afford something. Knowing is really important. And then when it comes to your business, I think what you said was spot on. Like feeling comfortable, I think feeling like it's a business, like actually feeling like it's
not a hobby,
a hobby that I sometimes get paid to do. Like actually feeling like it's a business. That's gonna be very, very good to have happen.
I think the last thing I'll add is the non-tracking. So people are blown away, but the fact that they don't have to track anything, because there are a lot of apps and different things out there that require you to track every single transaction throughout the month to call it a budget. And the idea that they're freed from that, I think is they really enjoy that.
Yeah, I've seen some of even the business tracking apps, and it's like, well, you can scan all your receipts. And I'm like, I don't want to.
No,
don't love that for us.
I wouldn't have the time. So if people want to find out more about what you do, where is the best place to go?
Well, the first place they can go is to our podcast, which is Financial Coaching for Women. That's a free resource, just like this one for everybody. But if they want to know more about this budget that we're talking about, we actually, they can go to budgetbesties.com/Neve, and they can find out about our budget there.
Great. And I will put all those links in the show notes as well. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. For you this evening, for me, it's been lovely having you on. And for everyone who is listening, I hope you have found this helpful. Please do DM us on Instagram. Let us know how you found it, what your takeaways were. We love to hear everything about it. And I'm sure Shana and Vanessa would love to hear too. So until next time, thank you all. Bye. Before you go, if anything in today's episode had you nodding along or thinking, yeah, that's me, don't leave it there. My free quiz helps you see what stage your birth biz is actually at and what's worth your energy right now, so you're not second guessing every decision or following advice that doesn't fit. It'll only take you a minute to complete, so click the link in the show notes and find out your birth biz stage and what your best next steps are.